Yo, 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 this is Carter Schelling, author of The Market Leader Strategy and chairman of 3655. Now, I'm a strategic advisor to business owners and their executive teams. I help them grow their businesses. Today we're going to be talking about the role that understanding personalities can play in your leadership style. You know, it's fascinating. One of the things that leaders have to do is to get other people to do what they want them to do. And it turns out to be much more complicated than it seems at first, because emerging leaders think, gee, if I've got the right idea, people will just follow me. No, it doesn't happen that way. It turns out, first of all, that for someone to do for you what you want, they have to believe that sooner or later, out of this whole deal, they're going to get what they want, because what they want is very important to them. Second of all, it turns out that what they want, although you might think it's the same as what you want, you know, we look at the world through our own eyes and we expect other people to be just like us because we're normal, right? It turns out that what they want is usually different from what you want, and sometimes totally the opposite. Okay, so that means to give them what they want, you have to be able to step out of your own self and what you need and discover what they want, how they see the world. Motivate them from their set of standards and values, not from yours. And that's difficult, because how could you possibly know what's important to them? Well, the personality profiling system that we use, and Kolbe, is designed to give you early information about what somebody is likely to find important, about what somebody needs to follow you. In the DISC system, we look at personality. Well, people are all unique, but there are 4 basic components of personality that everyone has some of. And you could describe their personality in terms of a mixture of those 4 basic components: D-ness, I-ness, S-ness, and C-ness. Now, I want you to understand that we're not after pigeonholing people here or limiting them. We're actually trying to take the window through which you look at other people and open it wider so you can more quickly understand what they need and where they're naturally headed, so that you can lead them not just from your viewpoint, not just from your standpoint, but from theirs. I'm going to talk about each of these 4 components in its extreme, like a cartoon. No one has just one. So when I talk about the cartoon, I'm talking about the component, not an individual. I'm also going to talk about something I call the neon sign. Sometimes under pressure, we have what I call a personality attack. And that is, we get so riled up that we can no longer really see what's in front of us, and instead we see what we think is in front of us, what our personality tells us. That's my timer going off. What our personality tells us we're seeing, as though we're blinded by a bright neon sign flashing just one message. Each of the 4 components has its own neon sign, and if you remember nothing from this seminar but the neon sign, it'll be a guide for you in understanding what motivates an individual with a lot of that component. So, let's start with the first component, which is what we call D-ness. And D stands for first discover, the desire to go where no human's gone before. It stands for decide, the belief that if you make enough decisions in a day, some are bound to be right. Just make a decision, will you? The desire to dominate, to engage in combat, in competition, and to come out on top, to either be dominating or dominated. And people with lots of D see things in those terms, kind of black and white. They say they overuse win, lose as a framework for thinking about interactions with people. D also stands for ultimately destroy. Ds are very curious about how far they can push things, and the way they discover how far is too far is by going too far. So Ds are regularly scrambling back from an edge they've gone over in driving for the absolute maximum possible achievement. Now, Ds are fascinating to be around because they love new challenges. In fact, their neon sign is new challenges. They have giant brains. They do a lot of thinking, and in their thinking, they're very imaginative. so that it's almost like in their head is like a holodeck, you know, from Star Trek. They can imagine the most amazing things. I can sit on a bus. I'm single, see a pretty girl. I can imagine what I'd say to her, how I start the conversation, how long we'd date for, how we get married, how many kids we'd have when we get divorced. I get the whole thing worked out and it takes me maybe 30 seconds, okay? Get the whole thing in my head. Now, I don't have to meet her. It all just happened. People with lots of D believe that the hardest part of any project is figuring out how to do it. Once you've figured out how to do it, any bozo can do it. Like I figured out exactly how to clean my garage. I know exactly how I'm going to do it. Haven't had enough time to do it yet, but I've already got that done. In fact, the garage in my head is already cleaned. I bring that up because although people with lots of D drive and drive and drive for positions of leader of any team, they don't really end up doing very much. They depend on the members of their team, the implementers of the team, the people of the team to actually get something accomplished. And yet, they're so not just dynamic, but judgmental. They really don't like people that much. Pure D-ness is kind of judgmental about people, so people don't naturally want to follow them. They think, I've got all the great ideas. How come people don't come to me to be leader? Well, the reason is they don't really invest themselves in being curious about what's important to their followers. So they always end up being the smart person in the corner that nobody wants to follow if they just have D. So finally, the fascinating thing about high D-ness is that it's dedicated to success and particularly to the challenge of success. High D-ness loves the 2 minutes to go in the ball game. Down 6 points, what are you going to do? 2 seconds to throw the one shot at the basket. Can you hit that buzzer? Even in the X Games, some of the most amazing things have been done on the last possible run, in the last possible event. They're supercharged when it's all on the line and we're all going to die. They love that. The problem is that as team leaders, the rest of the team is usually losing their mind at that point and would have preferred that we got the home run in the beginning of the game, not with 2 outs in the 9th inning. So, very powerful, put them at the front of the unit to hit all obstacles and to knock over things that are in our way. Very creative. In fact, every action film is basically some high D put in a predicament, doing amazing things both with force and with focus and with creativity to amaze everybody and get out of it. Great for that stuff. Not so good for follow-through. They really need help there. Not so good with people purely. They need help there. The best way to manage them is to recognize that their goals are extremely important to them, and whenever you want them to do something, all you have to do is bring out, so what was that goal again? Oh yeah, I want to do, okay. How's it going? Well, I have some frustrations. Well, will you take some advice? That's when you insert what you want them to do in exchange for them having more progress toward that most important thing, their goal. You trade with them. I'll help you reach your goal if you'll do what I want. Got it. Good. Now, another style in this matrix, very, very different from D-ness, is high S-ness. Now, just as Ds are all about getting things accomplished quickly with great risk, high S people are all about getting things accomplished at low risk and real teamwork. These individuals are builders. You know, a classic S job is build a brick wall 10 feet high, 10 feet wide, and 100 miles long. They love to really do things, to produce things, to be constructive. So obviously, they're not wild about loss. They don't want to see that wall fall down. They don't want to see what they built be lost. So they are focusing on, the first part of their neon sign is avoid loss. So, are they gamblers? No. In fact, people with lots of S are very practical. They realize there's 2 ways you can be happy. Okay? Get what you want or want what you got. Which is more practical? More practical is to set very reasonable goals, move toward them in a solid fashion, achieve them, and be happy. Okay? People who don't have S go, oh, they're just, starts with S, settling. I say, no, they're just, starts with S, smart. I mean, happy's the goal, right? And they're very happy. Another thing they are is very sympathetic. They're genuinely empathetic and sympathetic. They're people. In fact, some people say they're the hearts of the organization because they care the most. They're great coaches, mentors, nurses, counselors, parents. They genuinely care about other people. They're the closest thing, in fact, we have to human being. So the other half of their neon sign, the thing that they care about most, is helping others. In fact, they'll often sacrifice of themselves to help others. They just want to build a good world right here and not risk it. Very practical. Great people to be around. One more thing about them, they're also very principled. All of us care about principles, but they live by them. They live by loyalty, integrity, fidelity. These are extremely important to them. They don't push themselves forward. If you ever watch NCIS, Gibbs of NCIS has D. When the tough decision has to be made, he makes it. But he also has a great deal of empathy, and he's to himself. He's working on that damn boat all the time, you know, with his hands. He's a doer. That's a D and S leader. Now, S by itself doesn't like to sacrifice other people, doesn't like to make tough decisions that hurt other people, is reluctant to let go of people when they have to go. So they make good peacetime generals, but with only S and no D, they're very challenged during wartime when we have to make sacrifices. How to manage them? Well, fascinatingly enough, they won't change for the better because they already have what they need. They won't even change if you threaten them because they feel that what they're doing is correct. They'll only change, and sometimes people have to change, for other people in need. So anytime you need someone with a lot of S to get out of what you see as a rut and they see as a groove, think about who else outside of the two of you needs them to change, because they will sacrifice that feeling of security. They will take a risk to help someone else. Okay, so we've got two more components to address. The next one we're going to address is high C-ness, okay? This is the desire for correctness, completion, and control, okay? The neon sign here is avoid mistakes. Now, like D-ness, high C-ness is all about getting things done. A bit more practical. But unlike the practical S-ness, it's not about getting things done with a big concern about people. Pure C-ness does not care very much about people because its primary goal is to avoid mistakes. Now I ask you, who makes all the mistakes? Those people make the mistakes. This is where that movie Ferris Bueller was in a million years ago about turning the whole missile system over to computers was about, you know? Those people, they make mistakes. Let's let the computers handle it because they don't make mistakes. And that's sort of high C thinking. Now, what's the best way to avoid a mistake? Follow the rules, okay? So C-ness is all about rules. In fact, you hire a high C and they say, gee, do you have a job description for me? Well, no, we don't really. Mind if I write one? Okay. They like to write operating procedures. You can't color inside the lines if you don't have any lines. So you can count on C-ness to be setting up structures to avoid mistakes. All right? Now, what's interesting is they also believe that with data, oh, they're big on data, and logic, you can solve any problem. You find out by when you go to them with a proposal for a change, how about if we do this? Their first question is, excuse me, are you authorized to make this change? Like in the hierarchy of rules, do you have like the privilege to do this? Is it in the book someplace? Second of all is, where's your data? Now, if you don't have much C, you might get frustrated and say, look, when the building's burning down, you don't need a thermometer to tell you have a problem, which is not very popular, I'll tell you, okay, right now, okay? Data, 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 data. And that's a strength, but can also obviously be a weakness because there's some situations where you have to make choices and there isn't enough data. Like a friend of mine who doesn't have much C said, you know, when you have all the facts, they don't call it a decision. They call it a foregone conclusion. A decision is when you don't have all the facts. That's a D talking. Okay. Now, the last thing very important to high C-ness, keep control. Okay? That's why if you borrow a rake from your neighbor who's a high C, and you go to take it back, and he's, you know, in the patio or something, he says, wait a minute, I'll be right out. And say, I'll put it back. Oh, no, 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 no. He runs out and grabs the rake. Why? Because if you put it back, you'll put it in the wrong place. Okay? And a place for everything, and everything is placed. That's how the C world works. In fact, offer a C as much territory as he or she wants, and they'll take a nice, reasonable amount of territory because they can keep that organized. All right? Now, what's great is there's a bunch of things that need a lot of C. There's a bunch of parts of the company that you can't avoid. You must avoid mistakes, okay? Like money, technology, explosives, okay? So we have a really big need for C-ness. The problem is that people with a lot of C are often not very popular with other people because they seem to be brusque and judgmental, which they are. They're always judging themselves very highly and judging others as well. You can never be perfect, and yet high C seeks perfection. So there's not a lot of fun in C-land, all right? Now, how do you manage them? Very simply. They need an accurate job description. They need regular reviews of their performance written down in their file, okay? They need a path to success with steps along the way, milestones, and compensation so they can chart for themselves the future. They do a damn good job of it. What's funny is that they don't get enough credit. Every organization needs a slug of C to grow. It's just that they aren't very popular. But you know what? They don't care. Okay, so that's C-ness. Now let's take somebody totally different, and that's I-ness, the fun bunnies, okay? Totally different. And their neon sign is make friends and have fun. Oh, gosh, they're so entertaining. They're so amazing. These are people who have a sixth sense about human beings, and they're able to understand what people really need. Even though they don't mentally understand it, this sixth sense is almost always right. It doesn't make sense, but if you're having a meeting about how to influence someone from outside the company, or even inside the company, always listen to the high I's because they just have a magical sense. They can talk almost anybody into anything, and they're a walking talk you into it machine. They're the influencers to influence your thinking, to influence your actions, to get you to do stuff for them. They buy a new stereo, they have a let's start my stereo party. And you go over there and help them set their stereo up and drink your own beer, and they get away with it. Just amazingly entertaining, fun people to be around. And they need help in two specific areas. The first and most important is organization. When God made high I's, he or she got confused. High organization, high conversation, and they got swapped. Didn't put the organization gene in, put extra conversation skills in instead. So when you say you got to be more organized, they look at you like a dog has heard a strange sound. What could that mean? They never, some people don't want to be organized. High I's don't know how to be organized. So you've got to get them some kind of organization structure to keep them on track. Okay? Second of all, follow through and correctness after the fact, a little sketchy. They make great salespeople. The problem is they sometimes tell customers that we can do something that we can't do. And you say, well, why did you tell them that? He says, they were really happy when I told that. Okay? And their goal is to make people happy. You say, we can figure this out, can't we? No, we can't figure this out. So no one is just I, thank goodness, because they'd never find their house at night. However, I is a great supplement to other styles. D's, they want to be leader, they're just so cranky, no one wants to follow them. Well, if they have some I, they're much more likable. And so the most popular leaders are D and I, so that people are inspired by their brains, but they like spending time with them because they got some I. It's an extremely important part of the chart. It's just that all by itself, it's a little bit in need of structure and assistance. So, how do you manage a person with lots of I? As a friend. You put your arm around them, you tell them how important they are to you, how much fun you're going to have together in the future, and then you provide to them the focus, the structure, and the discipline they need to be successful with you. They love being part of a team. In fact, they love being loved. Great style. We have about 4 I's in all of American infrastructure. Okay. It's like almost an I-free culture. But I want you to imagine what it would be like if we do an I. Okay. Okay, great. Boom, did that. Now, let's see here. The profile. I want you to understand, it only takes 9 minutes. All right? And by the way, if you give it to someone else, remind them to think about the business the job they're in, not at home, and they only get 9 minutes to do it. This is not a CAT scan. This is not an MRI, all right? It's more like a photograph. You know, it's one look at it. So that in that online version, all that text they have, I'm not sure they have enough data to give you all that text. But you can learn from your own profile and use it to strengthen your leadership style and also make you more successful with other people. I want you to go to page 23 of your profile, the last page. Go right by an interesting page called page 14. Page 14 has everything you'll ever need to know about the 4 styles. And if I was a pure D, I'd say, I'm not doing a freaking video. Make them read page 14. It's all there. I don't have time to hold these kids' hands, but I'm not a pure D. I have some eye. Funny, I should be up here performing with all that eye. Okay, so anyway, page 23. There's 3 graphs on page 23. Look at the right one on the far right, which is named graph 2 for some unknown reason. Graph 2, far right. Label above that, what I bring to the party. Graph 2 is what you bring to the party. That's you walking up to the front door. Okay, that's you before you ever started your job. That's you. That's the basic you. That's you under pressure. That's the truest version of you. So if the D dot is high and the C dot is high, which it is for lots and lots of people in this company, then you have lots of D and C. You're a DC, creative style, great style, engineer style, estimator style, construction style. Okay, that's you walking in the front door. Now, in the middle, next to it, graph 1, that is what I call what you think your job expects of you. And it may be the same, it may be a little bit different. For instance, when people first join an organization, in that chart, the I, boink, jumps right up because they have to go meet everybody and make everybody like them, you know, and so they're more outgoing than they may have been all their lives. And then when they get to know everybody and they feel comfortable, it comes back down again. It's often different because it reflects what you think is expected of you in your job. Now, over here, the big chart, which is graph 3, is the combination of the two. I call it what you show at work. What you got, what you think you're supposed to do, what you do about it. Sometimes it's kind of a compromise, like you want to show more I, but you don't quite pull it off. If you start out with not very much D, and you seek to move up the ladder and move higher and higher, the higher you go, the more D you have to be able to exercise. So you may be just promoted and think I have to show more D, which is possible, but challenging. Okay? So you want to look at the interplay between those and check with your boss, first of all, to make sure that what you think you're supposed to do is really true. And that's what he or she thinks you should be doing. Because you don't want to have a misconception of what was asked of you. Okay? Now, it's okay if it's different as long as you're conscious of what you think you need to work on and you have a path for working on it. If your boss agrees, then he or she may have ideas about how you can change your personality. Now, it's hard to change your personality. What you may end up doing is giving yourself some kind of a stent, or not really a crutch, but like some kind of a trench box or something. For instance, if you don't have much C, good luck. You got to get somebody to do your C for you, because just inventing that gene, almost impossible. So you're probably good at starting stuff and convincing people, and you keep losing stuff off the back of the truck. Okay? Well, get somebody to catch it, will you? Who works with you. That kind of thinking leads to the fact that teams need to be composed of all 4 styles. We've actually looked at project teams and said, whoa, no wonder this team keeps getting rolled over. They got no D's in this team. They just get crushed by the bad guys. Or no wonder they keep losing stuff. They got no C's over here. Or no wonder the customer hates them. They got no I's. No wonder they don't get stuff done. They got no S's. You know, every part is important. And whatever you bring to the party, you can find your place. It's just important to be sensitive to that. And sensitive to what other people who don't have that style need from you to give you what you want, but also to follow you. So we use the profile most often when we have transitions, when someone's being promoted, or they're being hired, or added to a team. Is this what we need in this slot? Or second of all, when they have difficulties or failing, they have a controversy with somebody, how could their profile, their personality be affecting this? Or finally, for development, are they moving to a job that has different requirements than the current job they have? Do they have the personality depth to do those new responsibilities with natural style? So, my name, my phone number, and my emails on the page. If you have a question about your profile, I'd be happy to walk you through it. Just give me a call or drop me an email. Thanks for your time today, and thanks for trying this 2.0 video approach.